All right, well, joining me now is business consultant Paul Tiffany. He's a senior lecturer at the Haas School of Business. We're going to talk a little bit more about Trump's travel ban and the impact on Silicon Valley in particular. We've heard from a number of CEOs of various businesses. Do you see this having a direct impact on those businesses?
Yeah, especially, Heather, on Silicon Valley. For a number of reasons, the industry has been very reluctant on so-called STEM majors, science, technology, engineering, math. And for also a number of reasons, U.S. graduates have not been there haven't been enough of them in those areas, so we've drawn on foreign sources. If you look at the issue, part of it has to do with the very complex and very, how do I say, screwed up immigration policies we have. We issue about 85,000 HB1 visas a year. Of the top 10, Microsoft, Google, IBM are in them. Much of organized labor has been opposed because the major users have been Indian-based outsourcing software firms, and they do pay perhaps less than other wages. But so much of our local firms here, Silicon Valley, about a third of the big startups have been founded by foreigners, primarily from this area, Southeast Asia. The 7 countries that Trump named have not been, in the aggregate, big producers of HB1 visa individuals. The one country not on the list, the major one is India, of course. A very large percentage of the startups in the Valley have been South Asians, Indian entrepreneurs. That would have a huge effect if it were extended that. India, however, when Bangladesh broke off, took with it, and Pakistan, many of the Muslims. So India itself does not have as big a Muslim population as it had. But the basic question you asked, Heather, clearly this is going to have an effect. If we cut the flow of very talented individuals, the long-term plan should be to increase the number of STEM majors from our own universities. But foreigners, that's who we are. We're an immigrant country. You look at Steve Jobs, his father was a Syrian immigrant. And, you know, Apple is as American as you can get today.
Let's talk, let's shift to focus a little bit and talk a little bit about Donald Trump's executive order today on deregulation. What type of impact do you think that that will have?
It's going to have an interesting impact, but his order was stated in such broad terms. It's very difficult to find out exactly what. I think something we have to keep in mind, regulations tend to be a function of companies pushing their own agendas and getting a sponsor in Congress and getting it passed. So a lot of the regulations that are on the books tend to benefit a given industry, a given firm. Let's see what happens.
Because there was some concern, or is some concern, in Silicon Valley that perhaps regulation hurts that sort of entrepreneurial spirit. There was a report that came out that said that small businesses in 2017, some of those that were surveyed, the average small business owner spends at least $12,000 a year dealing with regulations. So that clearly is an issue for especially small businesses.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's that low. It might even be more. One of the problems, regulations cut with a giant anvil when perhaps you need a surgical cut. Regulations affect everyone. Almost every case you have to look at it. Some regulations you, I, and your viewers definitely want. We want better air, stuff like that. We don't want firms being able to emit stuff into the atmosphere that's going to do us harm. But on the other hand, a lot of regulations are pushed by interests to protect themselves. And how do we get a nice balance? That's the issue. How do we get both sides to come up with regulations that are good for all of us? That's a political issue.
Yeah, we should let viewers know that Donald Trump, in this executive order, President Trump saying that agencies should eliminate 2 regulations for every new one. We'll see, in fact, what happens. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Appreciate you joining us today,
My pleasure.
Ted.